Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we discuss the neurobiology of transformation. This is one of the partnerships between Ubiquity University and the Spiritual Heritage Education Network based in India, which has been the mother lode of so much spiritual wisdom and practice over thousands and thousands of years. So I want to invite Dr. Kumar, known as Javasu, and Dr. Shiv Talner to the program. They are going to make a presentation about the neurobiology of transformation. They have a slideshow, and then upon completion, we'll circle back and we'll have a deeper dialogue about how even in these times, transformation is available to all of us. So Javasu and Shiv, welcome to Humanity Rising, and I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Jim. This is Shiv Talwar. I want to express my sincere gratitude to Ubiquity University for partnering with us in graduate degree programs in Neurobiology of Transformation. I also want to thank Jim Garrison and his Humanity Rising team for giving us an opportunity to talk about it. And I also want to thank my dear friend Javasu MD for his lifelong dedication to the cause of educating the public in the science of transformation. And before I proceed further, I want to share a screen with you of my PowerPoint. And this is the organization called Spiritual Heritage Education Network, in short, SHEN. And it has got a universal vision, all-inclusive vision. So whatever we teach and whatever we do has to be all-inclusive, or we don't do it. And another characteristic of what we do is whatever we do has to be subject to critical thinking. So we do not go on whim and our likes. What we are looking for is scientific explanation of whatever we do. And this presentation will give you an overview of our research. I took early retirement to work full-time to develop educational solutions to the problem of identity conflict that I experienced in India in my developing age. Towards that end, I founded Spiritual Heritage Education Network, SHEN, in September 2000. Today's presentation briefly overviews SHEN's journey from spiritual education to as a solution to identity problems to education in the neurobiology of transformation. This picture here shows what happened in 1947. As far as identity conflicts is concerned, there are millions and millions of people who were uprooted from their homes, and they had to seek shelter in a strange country or which they had never known about. And whatever belongings they had, they were walking with their belongings. And If they had a bullock cart, they would use the bullock cart to travel hundreds of miles to get to safety. And all that in the name of religion. And that is what Spiritual Heritage Education Network was meant to put an end to, identity conflict. And where we ended up is science of transformation. And this is transformation of the whole individual. Our graduate degree programs, focuses on how our central nervous system works and how we can make it work so that we lead a happy life without any physical disease. We live without mental disease. We live without chronic stress. We have no terrorism, no identity conflicts, no racial bigotry. So all of these problems that we have in humanity, we can deal with in a scientific manner. By changing our biology, what we are doing is we change our behavior. And this is where we ended up. And our journey started with looking at spiritual solution only and education. If we felt that if we teach unifying spirituality as the basis of all religions, then we will put an end to this crazy behavior where we kill each other in the name of God. And but then we realize that knowledge alone is not enough to live that knowledge. To translate knowledge into lived behavior, we have to have the right kind of body and right kind of biology of our system. And we have to change our genes epigenetically so that they run our biology and our behavior better. So that is where we ended up. WhatsApp video. Sorry, excuse me. This slide here, I present a psycho-spiritual model of human behavior overlaid by a neurobiological model. Humanity starts to exist, started to exist about 14.5 billion years ago with the Big Bang, where this seed of everything, which is talked about as spirit or consciousness and energy put together, in a Big Bang explodes and gives rise to the universe. And a human being as a part of the universe starts to exist at that time also. Everything that is there in the universe now begins to exist all together. We may change form. From the seed of consciousness and energy, first we become matter, atoms, the building blocks of matter start to exist. And then after about 10 billion more years comes a molecule called DNA, which leads to the existence of life on the planet. And for my DNA to exist, it took almost 14 billion years. And my first cell becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, and so on and so forth. I start to grow, and finally I have a body. So this building block of everything, that is what we see here. That building block is the subtlest thing that can ever exist. It is so subtle that you can say its concreteness is 0. And in time, atoms start to exist as building blocks of matter. And then the Earth starts to exist 10 billion years later, and another billion years. The first bacteria, you can say single cell life, starts to exist. And that is, you can say, the beginning of life. And then evolution comes in. And from that single cell life form, various other life forms evolved. And it took 3.8 billion years almost after the first cell started to exist for me to begin my biological journey as a single cell. And then neurobiology takes over, and that single cell becomes my brain and my eyes and my whatever, the whole body. So that is what the whole system is about. And in psycho-spiritual terms, I quote the biblical terminology here. We have a creaturely soul. The word soul was used to mean mind. We have a creaturely soul that acts totally unconsciously. And then we have an animal soul, which is subconscious. And then we have a human soul, which is conscious. And creatures only have this creaturely soul. Animals have creaturely soul as well as animal soul. Humans have all 3 of them. Okay, these souls are really faculties of the mind. In neurobiological term, this creaturely soul is the nervous system, right up to the brain stem. Animal soul is the physical representation of it, or physical correlate of it, is the limbic brain. The second higher brain is the limbic brain. The basic brain is the brain stem. And then still higher brain is the prefrontal cortex, of part of the neocortex, which is called the prefrontal cortex. And this is supposed to be our, what you may call the executive brain. This is supposed to be the executive in charge of everybody, everything else. But what happens is the nervous system and the brain stem and limbic brain, they are so powerful that the human soul or the prefrontal cortex is hijacked. And that is what the problem is of human condition, the hijacking of the prefrontal cortex by the unconscious and the subconscious brainstem and the limbic brains. And we can really take full charge of our life. This executive brain can do it, but ordinarily it is hijacked. So how does it retain its sovereignty is what the problem is. And that is where the neurobiology comes in. There is the way that this can retain its sovereignty and be in charge of the whole company called life. And another thing I want to point out is that this 3.8 billion years since the start of first life form, genes mutate with experience and they gain experience of living, how to survive, and that is the beginning of the mind, because the genes are we inherit our genes from our parents, they inherit it from their parents, and so on down the line, all the way back to 3.8 billion years when the first life form started. So there is the continuity of genes from us back to the first life form that existed or began to exist 3.8 billion years ago. So our mind, which is the operating system of the hardware we call the brain, started here 3.8 billion years ago. My brain started to form soon after birth. So when I got my brain, its operating system was already in place, and that was in the genes. And we have to understand that. And once we understand that is the case, to control our function or our behavior now, what we have to be is fully conscious. Do things as consciously as possible. And we use our body unconsciously, we use our mind unconsciously, we breathe unconsciously, we run our heartbeats unconsciously, all our survival functions of the body are run unconsciously. Subconscious running is a little bit better, but not good enough. We have to run them consciously. And the more we take charge of our body, run it consciously, more we run our biology consciously, the more capable we are to transform our biochemistry, you can say, which transforms our behavior. And that is what we are talking about. And scientifically, if we proceed, we can change the whole world. And genes define us, but we can design them. Epigenetically, we change the genes so that they run our body and mind the way we would, the way it is good for us. And the prescription is very easy. This is called Gustav Jung. He says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So whatever is happening in our body, if we do it consciously, to the extent it is physically possible, then that will transform us. And that recipe of transformation, or you can say prescription of how to remediate human condition, is very easy to understand, and it is very easy to follow once we understand it. So this is the last slide I have to present. And to conclude, I bring to your attention that if humanity wants to rise to its full potential, we have to follow this prescription, and we have to take this prescription and create the educational infrastructure necessary for widespread education of how we can transform ourselves scientifically. And it will never fail, because what we are talking here is science, and scientific cause and effect is a natural law. I thank you very much. I invite my friend Jivasu to carry us further.
Thank you, Shiv Bhai. Thanks, Jim. And welcome to everyone. And I would like to start a few words of self-care. Right care for my body, feelings, intellect, and wisdom. Right care for my family, community, country, and earth. Let this right care come from a sense of oneness, love, and action. Let this right care take me to the bliss of conscious existence. I affirm it, I affirm it, I affirm it in my authenticity. So the theme is Neurobiology of Transformation. But in order to understand this transformation, first of all, we have to understand truth. What is truth? And truth means universal truth. Not only limited to human beings, but all living beings, from blade of grass to eagle to the tiger, and ultimately to us. And the common truth, the common ground is all of us want to survive first, live. Second element of truth is not only we want to survive, we want to live with some measure of well-being, happiness. Because without that, we will be depressed, we will be stunted, both emotionally, cognitively, and physically. And the third element of truth is we want to reach to the peak of our life, peak potential, because we are born with it. So those three elements of survival, living with some sense of well-being, and finally reaching the peak potential. Those are common to all living beings, whether they are conscious of it or not conscious of it. But here we are going to focus on the last, reaching our peak potential, because that is what we call transformation. And I want to clarify this word transformation, what it means, so we'll understand it better. It has two words, trans and formation. Formation means patterns. Over lifetime, we develop all kinds of patterns, and those patterns become prison. So we want to transcend them. We want to shatter them. We want to release ourselves from that prison, which is neurobiological. And once we do that, we are transformed. So in this Neurobiology of Transformation program, what we are going to do, we are going to connect the contemporary science, the cutting edge neurobiology with ancient wisdom, because we are rooted in it. We cannot cut off our roots. So it will be a synthesis of ancient wisdom, ancient insight with the contemporary science, because we are living in an era of science. Science is the common language which we speak, whether we live in north or south, east or west, anywhere. So that is number one component of neurobiology of transformation. Second is, you will be introduced not a piecemeal work, not a fragment, but a total new paradigm, A to Z. Lot of it will be based on evidence and some on inference. And the hallmark will be self-inquiry, critical questioning, very systematically. So it's not going to be matter of belief and faith. Of course, belief and faith are beautiful if it helps you. But in this program, that is how we are going to proceed. And the third part will be how we can be transformed. So there will be methods and practices. Because understanding our problem, making diagnosis is not enough unless I know how to treat and cure. And it becomes particularly important in today's context, as Jim spoke, that if we experiencing darkness, how to deal with darkness. Either we can resign and say, okay, I can't do anything, or I will say, listen, I am going to become the light. I am going to become the light, an island. I'm going to become the nucleus of change. So that is why it doesn't matter how deep that darkness, if each one of us can transform to find that light, then we can become architect of a new world, builder of a new world. We can become change makers. So now I would like to show you some visual to become very concrete, because this is about science, which is not only outside science, it is actually inner science also. So I would like to share certain slides to you. I hope you are able to see. This is the words I already said. So again, to define what is transformation, transformation is to transcend all formations, all patterns. Beside biological patterns, all other emotional and cognitive patterns, they become prison. They divide us. Color is a pattern, race is a pattern, extreme politics is a pattern, caste is a pattern. Because through that, I feel fragmented, I become biased. So patterns become a prison. And that is how most people live their lives. They live their lives not in the present, but based on past presents. So they are not able to take action in the present because action is always new, fresh. They live on reaction. Something happened, something they experienced in the past, trauma, emotional injury, wounds, and scars, and they carry it all. And that is embedded in our biology. And the story is a very long one that around 14 billion years ago, our universe emerged, came single cells, plants, reptiles, mammals, and finally around 72,000 years ago, we, the modern humans. And the beauty is in us, everything is present from that past. Because if you really look into the life of the bacteria, bacteria are not selfish. They have both instinct for survival plus sharing. So this visual shows you that they share, they cross-feed, they cheat, they interfere, they hunt in solitary. All those things which we think are human actually come from them. But it was in a nascent, in potential form. So that is why when I define myself as human, I cannot refer only to this person who is sitting and talking, because my humanity is formed, it started with the first life form. It is very vast, it is very wide. So when I say I'm a human, I will include each and every living being in that humanity. And that is a problem, because when I define myself as a human being and I exclude all other non-living beings, all other living beings, what will happen? I will kill them, I will consume them, I will destroy them. And that is the reason behind current climate crisis. I'm human, other living beings are not human, so I'm free to do whatever I want to do with them. In neurobiology of transformation, our goal is to make us realize to that single cell to reach that point and from onward. So this is human is a spectrum. It is just not a limited description. Sometimes we do. And that is the current brain, as you can see, which roughly came into expression around 72,000 or 70,000 years. Our approach is through the body, primarily. Of course, it will include emotions, it will include thoughts. But if you really look into emotions and thoughts, they are in the service of the body. And why? Because body is the only living entity with us. What we call life energy flows through this body, and if body is not there, all else will disappear. So we have to be very clear that what we call life is in this body, and body is the common ground. Our mind may be divided, but body we share, from a single bacteria plant to the most enlightened being. But there is another beauty of the body, and that is it is the confluence of three cosmic forces. What are those? Matter, energy, and consciousness. All three are present in this body which is very tangible, which is palpable. So my flesh, my bones, my liver and kidney are made up of matter. What keeps me alive is energy, life energy. How do I know? Because I have consciousness. So basically my body is like an airport terminal from where I can take a flight anywhere, domestic, international, or cosmic. So I need not to go into too much complexity of traditions, of thought, complicated philosophical system about which we are debating, or religion. This body contains the whole system, whole religion. The life which is flowing in it is the cause of all interpretations, whether it's spirituality or religion or philosophy or science, it doesn't matter. So that is why we approach in a very tangible and palpable way. And I mentioned to you about truth. So just here, individual, we want to survive, we want to live with well-being, and we reach our full potential. And in biology, it is called homeostasis, the natural balance. But what prevents us reaching our peak potential? What is the problem? The problem is 5 traumas of life. The first trauma is transgenerational trauma. So many of us are carrying from the past generations. From grandfather, great-grandfather, they were in war, they were in violence, they were a problem of substance abuse. All kinds of things happened. And still we are carrying the traces of that. And that is studied under the topic of epigenetics. Genes and epigenetics means around genes. So we may have wonderful genes, but the problem is they are not allowed to express themselves fully. It becomes a problem. So we don't live the way we want to live. Second trauma occurs in the womb. A mother is going through all kinds of problems, single mother, traumatized, violence, substance abuse, poverty, malnutrition. Third trauma is birth trauma, which was very much amplified by a great US psychiatrist, Dr. Groff, because birthing is a trauma. You can imagine this baby in the womb is in a wonderful environment, and then comes the delivery, and the uterus is in a spasm. It collapses on the baby. It must be extreme claustrophobia. And then this baby is pushed through the narrow birth canal. Again, more claustrophobia. And then this baby is thrown into our world, which I have to say is not the most wonderful world for a child. Light, sound, chaos. That also is a form of trauma. And the fourth trauma is physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Either we observe or experience. And the final trauma, which is not recognized, and it is the most universal, most common trauma, is social and cultural conditioning. Each baby is born with unique talent. That is a law of nature. Nature never forms two things alike. And culture wants to create a crowd. So we can become Christian, Hindus, Jews, so on and so forth. We become Democratic, Republican. We become white, brown, and so on and so forth, because that is an effort of culture to create number, because number is very important, because whosoever has bigger number will win, just like decent election. But what nature wants? Unique. That each one of us is unique. A lot of people They don't recognize as a trauma, but for me, it's a very slow, subtle trauma in which a unique individual with all its potential become the part of a crowd. And that leads to despair, a very slow, very mild, lifelong despair. Ultimately, result of this is we are nothing else but formations of end patterns from the past. Of course, intermittently we have a glimpse who we are, but that glimpse stays for a moment or two, few hours, and it disappears. You can call it matrix. All this is nothing else but matrix. And this is etched in our brain in very specific areas we called default mode network. Part of it is in our prefrontal cortex, frontal part of the brain, and partly behind. And that is we neuroscientists call autobiographical self, my life story. But the problem is it is not truly my life's story. It is the story of my trauma, my experiences in the past, my family, my religion, my caste, my color, my nation. In this autobiography of default mode network, I am the one who is not there. And that is why I can easily be influenced. Somebody gives me fear, whether it's in religion or politics or philosophy, because I'm not standing on my two emotional feet. Other people can influence me by invoking fear. The total result of this is chronic stress. Chronic stress is the commonest problem of humanity. Nearly all of us suffer from chronic stress, and it starts around the age of 2 years when we were a little child. Why? Because around the age of 2 years, I, or sense of ego, me and mine, appear. At that time, what happens? This very open biological child is now develops the boundary of I, me, mine. As soon as that happens, stress starts. Because now this child is going to be identified with various social, cultural, religious, political forces. And they will be in conflict with that unique energy, unique talent, unique potential with which this child was born. So that is what we call formations. So we are nothing else formation. And what is formation is memory, all from the past. And it is constantly circulating in our brain relentlessly, and we don't have any control. And we have so many triggers. Anybody can come and trigger it, and we will be on the mercy of it. That is what humanity is. But of course, as I said, human beings can never be conditioned fully, because there is something unique in them, that unique like force, nothing metaphysical. I'm talking about very much physical and biological. And that life can never be conditioned. There's always doors remain open if I dare to. So despite all these formation, I can do something. I can shatter these formation. I can transcend them, the transformation. So how? There are two ways. Number one, homeostasis. I must understand that I can regain my natural balance, which is free from chronic stress. Stress will come. We cannot eliminate stress because that is a part of life. In fact, a lot of time stress is very positive. So I was going to speak in front of you. So I have to be a little bit stressed. I have to put everything together, come on time, because normally my day starts much later. I do a lot of writings in the morning. It's a very joyful morning for me, but I have to change it because I have to make a presentation. You stress, positive stress, because that is a part of homeostasis. Once I bring that natural balance through methods, practices, understanding, then I will change my brain and body. That's a remarkable discovery in neurosciences almost 40 or 50 years ago, that this brain and this body are plastic. They are flexible. So my past traumas, my past conditioning, my past programming are etched, and they created a negative neuroplasticity. But nature gave me a control and said to you, okay, despite all that, you can change it anytime you wish, because your brain has resilience. And what that means, positive neuroplasticity, ultimately breaking all those patterns, becoming free from them, only retaining those patterns which are very important for my biological survival and also connecting to the external world. But otherwise, I want to become free. How do I do that? There are two ways, because these are all the parts of course which we are going to teach. First is practices. There is a huge variety of practices, something to do with the body, something to do with the breath, something to do with the mind. So we call sometimes yoga, stretches, tai chi, qigong, or a variety of breathing exercises. Pranayama, sometimes it is called, or various meditation, or awareness of the body, which is called interoception. Interoception is a cutting-edge research theme in neurobiology. Interoception means when I feel the flow in this body. It is also called eighth sense. 7 senses for the external world, 8th sense for the internal world, to change it, to transform it, to become free from my past. And then I go forward in action and not reaction. That is the practices. But even more important than practices is understanding the nature of my body, self. In nearly all ancient healing tradition, physicians, they wanted to understand personality of the patient, because then treatment, advices regarding sleep, food, work were customized. And it is coming in our world, and it's coming through the DNA analysis. So maximum in 10 years, everybody will have the details about their DNA, which will indicate what is good or what is not good for us. And that is what we do in our program, beside practices, somatic personality or self-knowledge. And we want to do them 24 hours. So in this program, we put them together in such a way that you can practice them anywhere, anytime. Because in order to change myself, in order to transform myself, half an hour, 1 hour a day is not enough. It has to merge into my day-to-day life, because I have family, I have children, I have job, I have other responsibility. That is the idea of these practices. So it is not about, okay, 2 weeks retreat. You have to have 4-5 hours every day. Impossible. So what will happen if I do that? My brain, which was functioning in fragmentation because of these formation, these patterns. It start to reconnect itself. It start to function as one organic unity. And what will be the experience of it? We call flow. Flow again is a great psychology by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's from New York, originally from Hungary, and he brought the idea of flow that in certain moments it seems like we are flowing like a river, gliding through the life rather than stopped, obstructed. And in those moments, we are in high energy, we are creative, we are happy, and self-satisfaction comes from within. So as soon as the changes start happening, we will experience a neurobiological state called flow, and it is connected with a variety of neurotransmitter, norepinephrine, dopamine, endorphin, anandamide, because we must be aware that the most beautiful pharmacy ever built by nature in last 4 billion years is in my brain and my body. Each cell of my body is a wonderful cannabis store. It is the most refined kind of wine that even drinking a drop will change me. That is a gift of the nature, but there is a lock on it. And the reason? My past patterns. It blocked my life energy. That is why I'm not thrilled, I'm not passionate about ordinary things of life. I need to be stimulated constantly to feel alive. But the nature of human being, like any other animal, is aliveness. Passion is our fundamental nature, but it is blocked. Blocked because of those 5 traumas. So in neurobiology of transformation, understanding myself, my personality, understanding all that trauma, and as a scientist, I become the scientist of my soul, my inner being. Step by step, I'm going to shatter. I'm going to be released from them. And that is where I will discover a brain and the body which is beyond patterns. That is what is called transformation. And we will come full circle. We started with a single cell, plants, reptiles, mammals, humans. And again, we will go beyond pattern. And what lies beyond pattern is infinite, infinite freedom. So single cell was like that. Single cell had no brain. It was living in infinity. But the problem was, it was not self-aware. So that is why we will come back to the same point, but in full consciousness, as Shiv Bhai mentioned. And once that happens, of course, that is what we will be. Because when inner is changed, when there is a full light inside me, what I'm going to radiate? Only the light. If I'm in the darkness, what I'm going to give to others? Only the darkness. So that is the introduction to this master's and PhD in neurobiology of transformation. And of course, I will just give you very quickly, these are the structure of the courses, 6 of them. We start in April 2025, duration roughly 2 years. These are the 6 courses. Once you request, details will be sent to you. And these are the credits, just some nitty-gritties. I won't go in detail. There is a discount and scholarships are also available. So with that, I will stop here and I welcome any question about the theme I spoke. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javasu, and maybe Shiv could come back on and we can. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I think we'll adjourn to the after chat for those people who want to go into more detail about your program and your perspective. I think the one thing that I would like to underscore is the comment that you both made about the fact that every cell is a confluence and crossroads for matter, energy, and consciousness. And I think that's something that is so important for us to take in, that we think our cells are just in our bodies, but they're receptors for cosmic energies, they're receptors for psychic energies, astrological energies, all kinds of consciousness vectors and energetic vectors are coursing through our bodies all the time. And it's like, you know, radio waves and television waves. If we have the right receiver, we can pick them up. But just because we're not picking them up doesn't mean they're not there.
Exactly.
And so I want to just acknowledge that and encourage people who are interested in this neurobiology of transformation to make yourselves conversant with this course. You can go on the Ubiquity University website. You can see the listing with the Spiritual Heritage Education Network. You can take their course in the Neurobiology of Transformation and then enroll in Ubiquity University for a master's and PhD degree. You'll be able thereby to really tap into the source of, I think, Indian Upanishadic and Vedic spiritual traditions that go back thousands and thousands of years, and it really contributed to world spirituality in a foundational way. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your presentation today, and encourage people who are interested in more detail to join you in the after chat. So that'll bring us to a close for today, and we'll see you all again here tomorrow. Thank you, Javasu. Thank you, Shiv, very much for your wisdom today.